Bonjour, salut, it's Rosie, your girl's favorite girl. So, glasses on or glasses off? That is the question, isn't it? Survivor 50, episode 2, let's talk. So, obviously, disclaimer, I didn't do a video. Survivor 50, episode 1, because I had a loss in the family. So, you know, when someone dies, you don't really feel like turning on a camera and talking. Right. Your eyes are puffy, you look like shit. I mean, I still kind of look like shit, but you know, we've gotten better. First episode, amazing, hilarious. I did watch it. I loved it. There are so many things I could say, but I won't. So let's just dive into episode 2, shall we? Thank you. Christian shitting his pants. I mean, universally funny. Right? Like quality reality television. Whenever someone shits their pants, it's always funny, okay? It just is. It is, okay? Losing bodily control like that, you know, and you know what? No, in some cases it's sad. When it's elderly people, it's like sad, right? But I digress. In this case, hilarious. Kyle, once again, very sad. I felt bad for Camilla because I know that she definitely would have wanted to link up with Kyle later on and they could have had a really good chance of running it to the end. But I do think this will benefit Camilla in the long run because eventually, just with the way this season is set up, there's so many people who have played together before. There's so many people who know each other outside of the game. You get what I'm saying? You have Christian, Mike White, Angelina. They all know each other. They played on David versus Goliath. That's kind of alarming, right? Coach, Sari, Colby, Stephanie. Those are 4 people who played heroes versus villains together. Ozzy, Sari, they played fans versus favorites. I can't remember if Colby was in that season. I don't think he was. Like, you have a lot of people who know each other, especially Stephanie and Sari. Do you get what I'm saying? They've played Snake in the Grass. They've played Traitors. They've played Survivor together. They've just played so many seasons of different shows together. They know each other really well. Even in Traitors, Sari was like, it's really hard for me to kill Stephanie because she is one of my good friends. I mean, right? And we've already started to see some duos separate. Right? Camilla and Kyle. Kyle was evacuated. Okay, that's gone. Rizzo and Savannah. Savannah's gone. Spoiler alert, Savannah's gone. That would have been a duo. You have Q and Tiffany. I think a lot of people are forgetting about that. Q and Tiffany played the same season. They were on the same tribe. They were in the same alliance for a while, right? There's probably someone else I'm missing. There must be someone else I'm missing, but it's not coming to the forefront of my mind right now. So clock it. So we get to the reward challenge, Ozzy versus Coach. Just hilarious. They're never gonna get along. They have 2 completely conflicting personality types. Do you know what I mean? When Coach is kind of a whiner. Do you get what I mean? Like he's, you know, he almost reminds me of one of those mystical gurus that runs like this, you know what I mean? Like Coach could start a cult, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. He would get up in front of hundreds of thousands of people and just be like, this is what the dragon has told me from beyond. Like that is like the kind of vibe, right? And you would have diehard people being like, Benjamin, we believe you, Benjamin. Like, you know, whatever. So that was kind of funny, but I don't think they're ever gonna get along. Aubrey, let's talk. She's never been one of my favorites. Oh, do we need to talk about who won the immunity or the reward challenge? It was the blue and orange. And then Vatu went home with nothing. Okay, there you go. Aubrey, let's go back to Aubrey for a second. Honestly, never one of my favorites. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people love her. I just... So I think it was really smart when they dug through her bag. If I'm honest, Genevieve, Q, Colby, and Rizzo are my favorites. Nothing against Stephanie LaGrossa. I liked her on her season with Tom Westman, her first season. I think it was Palau. I liked her second season in Guatemala. She probably should have won that season if it hadn't been for a bitter jury. But I haven't been the biggest fan of her since then. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not even talking the political stuff. I'm just saying, like, she's just kind of a meh player for me, right? Ever since Guatemala, everything she's been on, meh, right? So it was smart that they went through Aubrey's bag. I really want to see Q and Aubrey get into a little bit of a tuffle, if you will. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, he spoke about Aubrey on his season. That's why he got out someone, because they reminded him of Aubrey. I need to see this reach a fever pitch for me to be personally satisfied. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love a good beef. I love a good stir fry with some beef. And I just want to... Right. That's kind of the vibe. Not gonna lie. So, okay. This is a really weird final two that I would love to see, but Colby and Rizzo. I really like them together. I think the only thing that would really stop that is Rizzo being lazy. Let's be real. Rizzo needs to pick it up. Rizzo needs to get on his feet and do more. You know, you're not doing enough, Rizzo. You're not doing enough. You gotta help out around camp. Don't be stupid. But Colby and Rizzo, I just love their little dynamic, and I hope they kind of make it to final two. I know it's probably going to be final three, but I hope those two ride it to the end together and drag a lamb or whatever to be slaughtered. Coach's cramp in the water. Listen, I used to be a swimmer, so I used to get cramps, but it was mostly out of the water. It's like this post-swimming cramp. It's so painful. You're trying to put on your clothes, and your leg just feels like it's getting stabbed. I'm very empathetic towards those kinds of cramps, but it was hilarious to see Coach in the water getting a stomach cramp. Like a swimmer's cramp. Couldn't move. Jonathan's just like, oh my god, what is going on? You know, and just from, I get it. Coach was cramping. He was in pain. It was a dangerous situation. I get that. Okay. But I'm just going to say this about Coach. As I said earlier, he's a complainer, right? He's the kind of guy who gets a cold and act like he's dying. He's on his deathbed, right? That's just the vibe I get. Now let's go to Mike White. One of my favorite people to ever play Survivor, okay? And it's not just because I'm in the film industry and I love White Lotus and I love School of Rock and a lot of other things he's been in, even Zombieland. Mike White is fucking hilarious. His commentary is so spot on every single time. And Mike White's abs, can we just say, when did this happen, Mike? Like, he did not look like that on his first season, okay? I don't know what it was. Maybe it was when he went to Thailand and he was just like, you know what? I gotta get fit. Or maybe he's preparing for the next season of White Lotus and he's like, I gotta be on my tippy tip top for the next season. Do you get what I'm saying? But yeah, Mike White, hilarious. His take on Coach, hysterical. And his little breaking the fourth wall, looking towards the camera. That's what I would do if I was on Survivor. Okay, I've been waiting for someone to break the fourth wall for so long on Survivor. I know you're not supposed to do it. Survivor casting, if you're watching this, I would do it anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's probably not what I should say, but I would. I'd be breaking the fourth wall all the time. Please, spare me. So yeah, it just killed me. His little smirk towards the camera and him finding the clue to the idol wine drunk on his season of David and Goliath. One of my favorite moments. The way the tree hits him in the face and he's like, oh, bitch. The way he finds it. They're idiots. I quote that all the time, okay? Chrissy, let's talk. You're not a mom to these people, right? You might be a mom in life, but you're not a mom to these people. Relax, chill. She's getting on people's nerves. Not smart. If I was on Survivor, one of my strategies would be to shut the fuck up. Think about it. People are hungry. They're tired. They're sore. That is a recipe for irritability. The less you say, the less margin for error or margin for annoyance there is, you know? So if you're a yabba dabba doo, you're yabba dabba doing too much. Just nice it. Just There's no need. And it's wasting your energy. Why are you wasting energy? Valuable, precious energy. There's no need. There's just no need. So Savannah, look. Here's the thing about Savannah. She won her most recent season, right? And this we'll get back to at the end of my notes. Because I've been thinking about this in the first episode. And to see it play out in this episode was very, rewarding, if you will, intellectually. So this is the thing. Savannah won her most recent season, right? Now, when have we seen this before? Heroes versus villains. As I have stated, 4 people on this season played heroes versus villains. Right. We all remember Russell Hantz. and how that worked out. Right. So, look, it's just a risk that people aren't going to take, especially not Suri, right? Not to mention Colby, Stephanie, and Coach, who have all played on Heroes vs. Villains. Even if Savannah did make it to merge, one of those people would eventually try going for her, in my humble opinion, because that is too much of a risk. The way Russell Hantz played on Heroes vs. Villains, I think completely sort of changed the narrative towards people who others haven't seen play. And we'll get back to this at the end, because this actually comes full circle at the end of this episode. So let's talk about Joe. He's a loose cannon. I love when Christian proposes a Joe-tation, just to keep watch of him. Hysterical. Christian strikes again. I love how Suri always positions herself. I think Emily's, obviously they're all probably thinking it, but Emily's really the one who's like honed in on Suri and is like very aware of how good Suri is at these games, right? I mean, she won Traders, for fuck's sake. Like, do people not, it almost seems like people kind of forget that just because she hasn't won Survivor. She won Traders, which is arguably a more difficult game to navigate. So I think Suri has to be very careful, Suri, in my mind, is a Leviathan, right? With regards to the gravitas of her skills in this game, she's an absolute monster of a player in the best way possible, and she just has to be more careful than others because her target is huge. Christian finding the idol, hysterical. Just Christian and his Christianisms are hilarious to me, Even when he had his glasses on, he reminded me of a cartoon character, hilarious. I just love the way Christian is. Do I like that he gave it to Aubrey? No. Kind of annoyed. I don't really like Aubrey. As I said, I'm Q in this situation. I don't like Aubrey. I just don't. And props to Genevieve, because she was right about the boomerang idol. She was just wrong with her timing, right? Had they searched her bag later, they would have found the idol. So, I kind of hope they searched again, or I hope that they notice a change in Aubrey. Perhaps she's speaking more confidently, or fill in the blank, or even better, it'd be nice if Aubrey tries to rope in Rizzo, and then Rizzo, was able to finagle this, where he tells Aubrey, like, you gotta play your idol, man, we're all voting for you, and then they vote out Angelina. That would be a smart thing to do, to flush the idol, right? Fully flush it, especially because Genevieve knows whoever gave Aubrey that idol gets it back. So Aubrey needs to play it to make sure that idol doesn't boomerang back to someone. And then the next tribal council, Aubrey doesn't have an idol, they vote her out. That's what I would do. Okay. So Q, he's so right about pitching in. You have to pitch in, especially when you have old school players like Colby and Stephanie hanging out. Do the old school thing, tend to the fire, get firewood, help out with food collection, gather some coconuts for when they need it, like help with the fish, help in whatever way you can, be helpful, be useful. Because if you're not useful to your tribe, what use are you? And what reason do they have to keep you around? None, little to none. You know what I mean? Especially in the beginning, you gotta help out more. Rizzo, huge misstep. Pitch in, please, Rizzo. I really like Rizzo, okay? I like Riz God. Maybe it's because I'm Gen Z, he's Gen Z. I find him hilarious. His first season, I did find him hilarious. He was great television. So yeah, immunity. Look, it looked like Vatu was fucked. They were in last place. They were really slacking. But this is where strategy comes to play, and I don't see it enough in these immunity challenges, in these reward challenges. It's not just about who's playing, it's how you position them. Vatu made the best decision by picking the people they chose for the end of the challenge because they all have similar communication styles. They all communicate very well, right? Like, that's one thing about Rizzo. He's a great communicator. He really is. If you look at him, he's great at communicating. Even Angelina, she did pretty good at communicating. They were able to make a comeback that was phenomenal to see. I was so happy they didn't end up at Tribal because I don't think they're ready to go after Aubrey and Angelina yet, if you get what I mean. Like, the core alliance doesn't have all the pieces in place yet, and I really don't want to see them go home. If you couldn't tell, Vatu is kind of one of my favorite tribes. Do you know what I mean? I love the dynamics. I think it's fun, and it's the biggest question mark I have of how this is going to go down. So, Vatu wins it, great. The other two tribes, Coach should have not been on that last part. Can I just say that? I know they pulled it off in the end, but Coach should have not been there. He's a horrible communicator, point blank period. Same with Ozzy. Ozzy's not that great of a communicator. Let's be real. I was really surprised that Suri was fumbling as much as she was, but I think it's because Ozzy wasn't listening to her. Do you get what I mean? The people they had, it just wasn't a good concoction of personalities. And that's what I'm saying about self-awareness and communication in this game. A lot of people think they're self-aware. They're not. They think they know how they're being perceived. They're not. Right? I think the human mind, a lot of people, we want to think higher of ourselves and almost, maybe it is our inherent narcissism because everyone is narcissistic to some degree, but we need to be realistic about who we are. Right? Only then can you truly, in my opinion, not only find your authenticity, but also know yourself in a way where you're like, you know what, I'm actually not the best at that. I'll let someone else take charge. You don't need to be the best at everything, right? Ozzy is great at physical challenges. He's not great at communication. He's not the best for puzzles. Do you get what I mean? So I wouldn't have had Ozzy there, point blank period. And I think another thing is that I always find lacking in this game is like, I'm truly of the philosophy that you need to confront the monster within yourself to be able to go out in the real world and confront other monsters. What do I mean by that? And I'm going to get to this in a second, because what I'm about to say about the end of this episode, it'll all come back together. It's all coming together, guys. Don't worry. I know that I'm capable of lying. I know that I'm capable of being deceitful, Machiavellian, and just doing horrible shit. Like, I'm completely aware that I have that within my capacity. I just choose not to, right? Because I've been socialized to some degree where it's not socially correct, and maybe morally I feel conflicted about behaving like that all the time. However, when necessary, I know that I can pull that out of my bag, right? I have that weapon. I'm just not using it. Now, let's get to the Orange Tribe, Scylla. Listen. First of all, Ozzy giving Suri's extra vote, that was sweet. I like their alliance. I do. Joe and Savannah, they clocked on to the power dynamics a little too late. And by them, I mean Savannah. Right. Joe having PTSD from Kyle and Camilla, hilarious. Like, completely valid. To be fair, I actually hated their season because of the wholesome kumbaya fuck shit that was going on. I found it so boring to watch. I didn't agree with it at all. When Joe is talking to Devins, I'm empathetic towards Devins. I understand where Devins is coming from. Joe, you can't be this wholesome, like, I like to see the best in people. You're in Survivor. And Suri said it best. Suri was like, you lied on Survivor? Like, with her sarcastic tone. Exactly, Suri. Exactly. It's like, yeah, that's kind of what you're meant to do on Survivor, right? It's dog eat dog, if you will. So Joe is a wild card because of his honor, but he's also not. Do you get what I mean? He's just not. He's not because you kind of get where Joe's coming from. He's easy to predict is essentially what I'm trying to say, right? Because he's like, I'm doing it with honor and this and that. It's like, he's easy to manipulate. I would keep Joe around till the end and he would be my lamb to the slaughter, right? Cool. Christian rocking him in the hammock is so subconsciously deceitful. I don't know if people clocked onto that, because when you're a kid, your mother rocks you in your arms. He's, subconsciously triggering trust within Joe. But this is, once again, I will get back to this because it does loop around towards the end of this video. I think Christian has a weak spot, though, and that weak spot is Devins. And I'll get back to that in a second. Suri, she's clutching her pearls. And she clocked really quickly. She was like, we gotta knock the target off Ozzy's back. But you know who also clocked that? Emily. And I'm also going to be getting back to that, right? Emily clocked it. She's smart. Christian telling Devins about the Billie Eilish boomerang idol. Hilarious. Hiding the clue at tribal. Iconic. Smart. Future planning. I like to see it. Tribal look. The Joe versus Devin thing. Of course Jeff is going to talk about it. Of course. But, can we talk about how good Jeff looks? Even after 2 seasons? Or, sorry, 2 decades of seasons? Raw. Next question. So Suri was right, actually, when she's talking about listening to your gut. She's right about that. I think when you are the embodiment of the divine feminine in her glory, as Suri is, you do have good instinct. You do have a good gut feeling. But also, you need to be taking in the strategic. I get that. But I think, Suri was right in what she said for Suri. I just don't think Ozzy has that instinct. So when Ozzy is listening, it has a gut feeling, he probably shouldn't listen to it, okay? Even giving Suri that extra vote, he didn't have to do that. And I probably wouldn't if I was in that game, right? It's nice, but why would you? It's sweet. I like it for Suri. I love Suri, but I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. So Savannah should have kept quiet. You get what I mean? She yabba dabba dooed too much. And she should have known she was going home, because when Christian said uncertainty versus safety, Savannah now, come on girl, come on. Uncertainty, we haven't seen Savannah's season. We are uncertain about her. Safety, we can clock what Joe's doing. He, as cuckoo caca wild as he is, he's very predictable. We can manipulate him. It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. And unfortunately, Savannah, you are the devil they don't know. You are a liability. You are the uncertainty in the tribe. So Savannah goes home. And it was the right move, because, look, you can't cut Joe or Ozzy because they're good for immunity challenges. They're good for reward challenges. My biggest thing is, how is Rizzo going to react to this? Because I know that him and Savannah pre-gamed, that they were going to try to meet up at the merge, but now that's gone. The same thing that kind of happened to Camilla. I don't know how it's going to go. Another duo is sort of split apart. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So then it comes to them hiding the idol. Christian falling over so that Devins could hide it. Amazing. And then Christian blatantly saying, I meant to do that. And everyone laughing because it is Christian's type of sarcasm, but he's being dead serious. Delicious. Just delicious television, delicious gameplay by Christian. I love when people do that. I love when people tell the truth and everyone thinks they're just joking. It's iconic, it's hilarious, and it's deceitful. And I like that. So Scylla, let's get into future predictions, okay? And this is where everything's going to come together, right? Right. Scylla. Suri needs to get rid of Emily, okay? Emily is the anchor that is the boat of Christian and Devins. Do you get what I mean? Christian and Devins are on the boat. They're the alliance. Emily's their anchor. Emily's their third vote. Emily's the one that's going to sway the power, if you will. You get what I'm saying? And she's after Suri. She might be plotting for Ozzy. It's the smartest thing to do. You want to knock off someone's right hand before you go for the mafia boss. Do you get what I mean? Right. Here's the thing. If Suri catches wind, I think Emily's fucked. Not only that, but because of the Devins and Joe thing, Suri, I think she needs to wedge herself right between them. She needs to get Joe on her side ASAP, because they already have the extra vote, right? They have the extra vote. And I think once Suri catches wind that Emily's against her and is against Ozzy, I think they're going to use that extra vote. They're going to use Joe and be like, we trust you, man. Look, we're telling you about this. It's us three till the end. Is it? Probably not. Maybe. He's a good lamb. I'll say that. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to get Joe on their side. Then you have 3 versus 3. Suri uses her extra vote. They get out Emily, Devins, or Christian. And then all of a sudden, Suri, Ozzy, Joe are now the majority. Yeah, and Ozzy also has an idol. So, oh no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He doesn't, because it's a boomerang idol. I digress. Okay, Callow. This is the most boring tribe to me, other than Mike White. So I think maybe on personality, I could see Charlie, Mike, and Camilla. And then maybe Dee and Tiffany doing a core 5. And they would keep Jonathan around for tribe strength, but Coach and Chrissy, I feel like their time is near. I don't think they're going to get very far. They're kind of irritating everyone. Vatu, one of my favorite tribes. Potentially my favorite tribe. This is tricky, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Genevieve, if her and her alliance can suss out, right, Colby, Q, Stephanie, Rizzo, if they can suss out that Aubrey has the idol and is acting different, They can flush it. They can flush it. Do you get what I mean? I think it would be so smart to tell Aubrey they're voting for her, get her to use the idol, and they all actually vote for Angelina. Flush the idol, next tribal, get out Aubrey. That's what I would do. But they need to know that there's an idol, right? That's where it gets tricky. Can they do this? Can they notice the change in Aubrey's attitude? Or maybe is Aubrey going to slip up and tell Riz God? I kind of hope that happens. I hope Riz God pulls a rabbit out of a hat. You know what I mean? I hope he ends up being the saving grace of that Vatu 5, because I would just love to see it. You know, because there's no way Aubrey's telling Q she is the idol. There's no way. Colby, probably not. Stephanie, probably not. Genevieve, no way in hell. But maybe Riz God. Who knows? So that's the biggest question mark for me of what's going to happen. I don't know. But I will be watching. And I will find out. And I will report back to you guys. So there you have it. Survivor 50, episode 2. Really exciting. Not gonna lie. See you later.